Hello, it's Tamara Hunter, and today is day number 274 of 365 days of awesome. Celebrate success through service. And I told everybody, come with your tissue, and I have today's guest is a service hero that many know. Many know her because she is truly out there with an international movement to make a difference. I am so honored to have Rosie Aiello. I didn't check to see how I say your name correctly. Aiella? Is that how
Aiello. Aiello.
Aiello. Okay,
Yeah.
Aiello with me today. I met Rosie, and we're going to talk a little bit about this. I actually met her daughter first, and her daughter was like, "Oh, you need to come and meet my mom right now." So she's like bringing me over there, and I had no idea why. And once I did, it was like, "Oh, I get this, I get this." And this was over a year ago.
Yeah.
Over a year ago. So I know we've been wanting to get together for a while, and I just want to say welcome, Rosie. Welcome, and thank you for what it is that you are doing.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's just, we've been in touch for such a long time. And that's my daughter. She's a connector. She puts people together. And I call her, she's kind of like the one who always has like lots of big visions,
Right.
She's looking up, but she may be little, but she's got a big mind of thoughts and everything else. And I'm the executor, but together I say we make one brain. I got the left, but I'm developing my right.
And I get you on that because I have 4 children, of which I was blessed with 3 boys, wink wink, and 1 girl. And so that 1 girl, just have to say, it's just like there is that connection that is so unique and different. And I had that same connection with my mother, and in fact we're going to be talking about that at some point in time, because it's just like these connections that we have, they really are connections on multiple spheres, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, and I'm meeting so many wonderful people, and then just all these coincidences. And it's like things, how they say things come to you at the right time. Got to be open to receive them. And man, it's been a journey. Let me tell you, it's been a big journey.
And so let's talk about that. Let's kind of like start from like the beginning of, if you will, the journey, because there is a definite beginning point, correct?
Well, yeah, I want to give people a little bit of background, sort of before I was even married, because so many women live in shame, and you'll hear a lot of my shame coming through in my story, because we have these perceptions of, how a woman should be, and if she's smart and accomplished and stuff like that, it shouldn't happen to her. It shouldn't happen to me. And that's really painful. So I started out in corporate finance in Silicon Valley, and I was a big rising star there, and I loved it. And then I had met my husband at Berkeley when we were undergrad. When I was an undergrad, he was a graduate student. So we didn't get married right away. But when, it lined up, we got married. And we had a lot of things in common, right? And he was, he was smart. He was cultured. He was successful. And we aligned a lot in many, many ways. And so within a week after getting married in the United States, I moved to Saudi Arabia, where he had already been working. And I ended up living in the Middle East for over 23 years. We've been, relationship together for like 25 years. And Tamara, hindsight's great, right? You see all the things, but I'll tell you, I was married 18 years before I even knew I was in an abusive relationship. I had no clue. I was living in Saudi Arabia, and then we moved to Beirut, Lebanon, and I didn't have the vocabulary. I just thought I wasn't good enough. And well, I was a high-powered, corporate woman. I knew how to get things done. Now, well, if I can be a good wife, I'm not a good wife. Well, darn it, I'll be a good wife. And yet, it's like every time he set the goal, I'm approaching it, and then he'd move it. And so I was always self-defeating. And then he would sit me down, literally. He would sit me down, he would stand up, and he would scream at me how horrible I was for maybe 3 to 4 hours. And it's like, and I felt bad, and I didn't know. And I'm telling you, I didn't know I was in an abusive relationship. That went on for 18 years.
Right.
And of course, I didn't tell anybody. I just thought I wasn't good enough, right? So for 18 years, nobody knew. Then I had, we traveled to the United States to visit my family and friends. And one time I went to a bookstore and I discovered a book, and then another book, and another book. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God. And then I told only 3 people, my brother and my 2 best friends in the United States. So for 25 years, only 3 people knew.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what happened when my daughter was little, she would, because I only have one daughter, I have one child, and we'd be at the table, around the table, and he'd be on my case and be yelling at me and putting me down. I mean, she knew. I'm talking about like 7 years old, and she would say, "Papa, that's not nice. Stop doing that to Mom."
Right.
And,
yeah.
Right. So then he thought that was cute, and he would call her Mama's little lawyer. So here
wow.
So here I am sitting at the table feeling so humiliated that my 7-year-old daughter is defending me, has to speak for me because I can't speak. Now, part of the reason I didn't speak was I knew if I said anything to defend myself, it was like adding fuel to the fire and he would blow up, which I didn't want for her.
Right.
But of course she knew.
Right. And they do, don't they?
Yeah, and we're writing our memoir. We're still writing. It's called 11 Hours to Freedom. And I've learned so. I mean, she and I are very, very close. But now, as we're writing the story, and things have come out that she knew at 5 years old. She told me a story that I didn't know. It breaks my heart. We had a 2-story house, and the upstairs was kind of like open. Like it have an open balcony kind of thing that goes down to the living room. And so, but my husband and I were in the kitchen, but she could overhear because of the sounds. And he was yelling at me. And of course, we thought she was in bed, right? And she told me from 5 years old, she could remember so distinctly that she was so afraid. She thought he was going to kill me and that he was going to kill her. And she was terrified. Can you imagine the trauma that was in her cells from that young age? And it's just, it just, breaks my heart when I hear how much she suffered. And so then as she grew up and, became an adolescent, and what do adolescents do? They want to separate from the family, the parents, not from the family, they want to show their independence. Well, he didn't like that. He didn't think that was so he didn't think she was so cute anymore when she was trying to express her own voice. So when I told you I found out at 18, at that time I told her, I go, look, you know what? I discovered that what your father is doing is not right. It's called abuse. It's called abuse. It's called verbal abuse and emotional abuse. I, used language, even though she was like 16. And I said, well, I'm never going to leave you. I could never leave without my daughter. Right. And in the Middle East, it's not like here. There are no custody battles. Custody automatically goes to the father. Right. So I stayed. I stayed because I knew if I left before she turned major, there was a good chance I would have lost her. There would have been an international fight and he probably would have won because he's got the money and the power and everything else. So I stayed. Mm-hmm. And so when she was, and I thought, shoot, I'm married 20 years, was another 24 when she, or another 4 when she wanted to go to the university. So then she told me, Mom, she came home from the university one day and it was April of 2009. She said, Mom, you got to get me away from my abusive father. Mm-hmm. And I go, you only have 1 year left. Because I go, can't you wait? She goes, no, Mom, I can't wait. Right. And so within 4 months, I planned the escape of our lives. Mm-hmm. And I tell you, Tamara, I mean, as I tell this story, I'm always amazed. It's like, how did I do it? We must be guided or saved, because here I was in a situation. We were living in Beirut, Lebanon now. And he was somebody who basically worked at home. And we had to live in Maine because that's what, most people do in the Middle East, and everything else is not like some big glamorous thing. I don't want to make it sound like it's bigger than it is. But I had to hide behind, from those people all the time. Right. And we lived in a small apartment complex, small condominium complex. So I started to remove things for shipment. And I mean, I talk about, little clothes, a little bit of things here. It's not like big things. And I would lock myself in the bathroom door. And I would, get boxes from the grocery store and slip them in. I had to hide from everybody.
Right.
And then when the box was full, I finally told 2 other American friends one was married to a Lebanese, one was married to a British guy. So I could bring those boxes to shipment later. And, every day, and I tell you, my heart was like beating. And of course his violence was escalating. I mean, I know what terrorism is. I mean, I've lived under a lot of political terrorism, living in the Middle East for almost 25 years. I've been through probably more war and seen more bombs and experienced more bombs and bullets and fires and everything else than probably the average soldier, let me tell you. But it was nothing, Tamara, nothing compared to the war going on within the 4 walls of my house.
Right.
And yet, I'm going to say that me and probably every other woman, we all deserve the award for Best Actress.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
I so agree with you on that one. Yeah.
Right?
Anybody that's sitting here and saying, yeah.
Right. You hide it, you make it look good, and everyone thinks you're just the best family. I mean, we just suck it up and do the best we can because we have to survive. And let me tell you, my daughter and I, again, we didn't know this until we were writing our book, that we both were extremely suicidal. But she said, "Oh my gosh." She says, if I kill myself, I'm going to leave my mother with my father. And I said to myself, I can't kill myself because if I do, she's going to be with her father. So we kept each other alive for each other, to keep each other going. So not one of us would be alone with him. But, I just remember there was a time, it was Christmas Eve. It's not a story I tell very often. And we were on the way to church. It was an 8:00 mass. He's Christian, and he had gotten angry at me on that day, Christmas Eve. He got angry at me and was giving me the cold shoulder, and I just can't take it, And I remember as we're going down the mountain, and I had my hand on the handle of the door, ready to open it up and just throw myself out. I I can't take it. But again, I just thought of my daughters, but I was so close. I can feel the handle in my hand right now.
Right.
So, so after she told me that, get me away, I started to, pack up some things for shipment later. I started to scan some documents. I started to do a lot of things, and, we cannot fly from Beirut, from Lebanon to the United States directly. There are no direct flights. So we always would go through Europe, and we usually go through Paris. Okay. And so what I did is all 3 of us left together.
See, that's brilliant. Brilliant move. Yes.
He had, and I tell you, I told my daughter, don't tell any of your friends, don't tell anybody, our success and safety depended on secrecy, right?
Right.
I mean, he could, if he found out, one, in general, anytime you tell an abusive person you're leaving, that's when things even escalate. And even if they haven't been physically abusive, that's when they can become physically abusive. But not only for that, is that he could have legally held me back, could have prevented me from traveling.
Right.
So we were
given the culture.
Right. So we were traveling. We had plans to visit the United States for the summer. And I don't know if any of you have read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. And this is a book about the Holocaust, and he was in the camps, but he escaped.
Then. Oh, I think I have. I've read probably every single one, because I will just interrupt you for a moment here, because many people know, I haven't been too secret, but I haven't gone into it too much, that but that's what the connection was, and why your daughter wanted me to come over and talk to you, because I too did an underground, leave one state to another state, did a lot of stuff. And there is something in reading stories about others, and I too seem to, a lot of times, any books that I could get on Holocaust survivors and others that have been through traumatic, like where they've been caged up, or they have been held against their will, or they've been in any kind of a violent situation, it and finding hope. You find hope in these stories. And so I just wanted to say, I probably have read it, because I think I've read just about every single story of any of them. My issue sometimes is names, but go ahead with the story, because this is significant.
So from that, and I didn't read his story until afterwards. Okay. When all the planning, everything was just, I did 90% of it. My brother helped me a little bit, because, on a scale of 1 to 10 on stress, mine probably was 110. Right. And so also from abuse, I've learned this now, your brain starts to shut down. Your prefrontal cortex doesn't work anymore when you do your thinking and planning. Anyway, those things are real. Everybody, it's real. You wonder why can't I get out? Why can't I think? Why can't I function? Why is it fun? It's because your brain has become rewired. All right. And the constant adrenaline that's pumping through your veins. It's just, it all matters. Right.
Right. And one thing that as I was getting my therapy after going through it, which every person needs to understand and be worked through it. And as I was being guided back to being able to control my life again, it was taught to me, the longer you're in it, the more that it has done to the rewiring, the more that it has done to on the chemical and on the cellular level. However, the hope again is that once you find this out, there's ways of working through. And so you were there for quite a few years. In total, again, how many?
20? Well, I was with him 25 years, almost 25 years. And here, and I was, and I didn't have any support system.
Yeah.
I had no support system. And then he made it really difficult for me. So here, and I'm in Saudi Arabia, which is already a very, a society that's very hard to integrate into. I had really great Saudi friends, but, they're not sociable and outgoing like we are, right? So, and then he would make it and I couldn't drive there. So it wasn't like I could just hop in a car and go when I wanted to. I had to ask permission. I had to get the driver. It was complicated. So when I wanted to go visit a friend, or I became active in some women's organizations, he made it so difficult for me. Always an impediment. This is another red flag. They just make things so difficult. They say, you're leaving me, you're abandoning me. All this stuff, as if you're laid guilt upon guilt. And so as I was planning the escape, again, I knew nothing about limiting beliefs or anything. I didn't know about trauma. I knew nothing. But I told myself, probably 100 times a day, I said, my daughter and I deserve a happy and joyful life. I go, I have one life to live. I'm not going to be a martyr. I'm going to live this life. And I said it over and over, really to overcome the guilt that I was feeling for planning this escape to save my daughter and myself. Talk about the thinking we had to go through for something. Why should I have to do that? But I did.
I want to point out something, and especially for those people that are watching right now. When you did that whole thing with your eyes, keeping your head focused front and your eyes to the side, that is not an uncommon thing for people that are in a domestic or an abusive situation, because you've got to, and I'm pointing this out because you just did it when you were reflecting back on that. And anybody that's been through it understands this. And that is, you've got to have that award-winning actress situation going on, and you need your eyes going front and center and to keep your head up and not appear as though there's anything wrong, because number one, if you don't, you're going to possibly be facing an immediate retribution for it. Number two, they might be on to something if we're on to something in our mind, because I don't know about you, but I had things planted all over my house that if I opened something, that it would be known because there was something planted there. There was all these things booby trapped. And there was a warning signal left straight by the door. You leave, this is what you'll get. And that's not an uncommon situation. So I wanted to, like, anybody that's watching this right now, and if this is resonating, know that you are not alone, and that we are going to continue, and we're going to share how there are ways to be able to seek help. So I want you to continue on this, but I hope you don't mind that I pointed that out, because
absolutely not.
That bring back some memories for me.
Yeah, and I want to just, again, we're doing this to give women hope. I mean, I tell you. So let me get back to, I kind of jumped to Viktor Frankl's story. So Viktor Frankl, again, I didn't read his story until after I left, but how did he escape? He escaped in full measure. There's a truckload of dead, naked bodies ready to be shipped out, to be probably dumped somewhere. And he got naked, stripped himself, and buried himself in the truck. So just like, I wasn't naked, but my husband was right there next to me when we went out together. And when we arrived at San Francisco International Airport, I knew my brother was going to be there. I knew exactly where my brother was going to be. My daughter and I had our trolley, our luggage carts. We pulled them around my brother, and I was terrified of my husband, right? I was so terrified. I had to have my brother tell him, Rosie's a little upset. Rosie's a little upset. I mean, I couldn't even have my brother tell him exactly what I was feeling. But Rosie was a little upset, and she needs some time away from you. And we just, of course, he was totally surprised. He had no clue. And then my brother turned around. We took our carts out, and we turned our backs and left him standing alone in the airport. So I knew my husband.
Last time you ever saw him?
No, it wasn't. The story's always more complicated than it is, right?
Yeah, no, I understand that too. Yeah,
it's quite complicated. But see, again, because I didn't live in the United States, I didn't have a restraining order. I couldn't do a restraining order in the Middle East, right? There are no international restraining orders.
No, and you have to go state to state to state. You may have one in one state, but then you have to go underground again to then go before the court and again get another one. And you're not guaranteed you're going to get one. I mean, it's not it's much more complicated than many know. However, it is workable. And that's, again, the good news. And the more of us that band together and get our missions and messages that coincide together, and we can make a difference out there. And you know what? We may even be able to educate some of our political people, wink, wink, to help us to start putting some of this uniform under some rules and regulations. We can talk about that later, or whatever you want to do. But let's keep going with your story.
So,
you're in San Francisco.
Yeah, we're in San Francisco.
There. And okay, so I will say this too, and this is another thing that you pointed out, and I just want to concur on this, is that if you're in one of these situations right now and you're saying, boy, this is beyond me, this is too big and everything, there are people. And in my situation, I ended up having to have an excuse to take my kids to the movies. I dropped a dime. I called my mother and I said, I can't know what, I can't know when, and I can't know how, but this is what's up. I need help. There you go. And then the ball started rolling, and I could not know, because if I would have known, it would have been found out. See, I have the utmost respect because, you know, and each situation is different, but there is so much hope and there's help, and 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 to come out and talk about this, you know, there's an element of bravery still, isn't there? And we were talking about that. Yet,
There's takes a
you know,
lot of courage.
yes,
And I
yes,
think the key, the things that are to me are the worst things that I did them was I felt I was all alone, you know,
mm-hmm.
because first of all,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know what I
Yeah,
was through. I let shame keep me quiet, my own shame. Right after I found out, I was so embarrassed. I didn't ask for help until my brother knew when I told him, but then for the escape. And I just thought, you know, my mission is not to have any woman left alone. You
right,
know,
right.
we just
Yes,
we well, first of all, we make up these
yes,
stories that are not true. We don't see a way out when there is a way out. You know, you can't find the solutions within yourself. You know, it's somebody from the outside who's been through it, who can just support you,
yes,
at least even in your own mind. Now,
yes,
I wanted to get out for years, I told you, but I couldn't because of my daughter. I was not going to do anything that was going to jeopardize my losing my daughter.
right.
Nothing. So
And
I
many
said,
times mothers, and I'm sorry to step on your words, but I just want to again validate, because and also explain that I'm glad that you started with your you know, your history and who you are, and you're an intelligent woman, and so many people can judge and say why. Well, you know what, there needs to be an element of understanding when you yourself are in a situation and then you've got children. You are you are dealing with it with like you were talking about, with not the same tools that you started with in the relationship, depending on how long it's been, what kind of support you have or you don't have. Yet, what is it that a mother has? A mother has an unconditional, unbelievable survival for themselves and that child. And that can be the impetus for change. However, it can also be the reason for staying in many times. And there cannot be judgment for that.
there, you know, thank you for saying that because, of course, that I got that. You know, when I first arrived, I felt like the whole world was against me. I
Right.
mean, you know, you were damned if you do and damned if you don't. It's like this exactly what you're saying. Oh, well, why did you leave? How could you do that? You know, and then at least for the people here in the United States, my family and friends, and they said, well, then why did you stay so long? Right. And
Yeah.
then for his family and friends, it was like, of course, God knows what story he was telling them. He probably just said, she just kidnapped my daughter, you know,
Right.
not never
Right.
admit, and still to this day
Right.
doesn't he's done anything wrong.
Right.
Um, but it's just like, you know, the thing is, we're not stupid. We, you know, when soldiers get trained for years, my nephew is in special forces and he's been trained for like 3 years and has not done any battle yet. You know, he probably won't because but the kind of training he's done, but he's trained. We're not trained to fight and to be defensive and this in a marriage. You're expected to be a team to support each other. You're not expected to have to survive in a marriage. You don't have the tools and skills for that. Nobody does. And it doesn't matter how smart you are. I have spoken to women all over the world who are extremely accomplished, 8-figure earners, you know, what have you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what your education background is. It doesn't matter what your nationality or ethnicity is. It doesn't matter what nothing. Nothing matters. Abuse has no boundaries.
Exactly. Exactly. There is no boundaries, and it is totally and 100% unacceptable. And yet, this is an important piece. If you're not hearing this, anybody, please understand this. When you take those vows and say, I do, anyone that I've talked to, and I know from the two of us, we had no idea that we were saying I do to abuse. That was not a part of the deal. However, when all of a sudden it shows up and it starts to, I actually thought I was going crazy for a while.
Exactly. That's a red flag. When you feel like you're going crazy.
Yeah, right.
That's the sign. We all did. Yes.
Yes. And I actually put myself into therapy where I was going 3 days a week for 2 years. I didn't miss a day because I really thought I was going crazy.
Yeah.
And finally, my therapist said to me, well, you know what? I think you're not crazy. This is what I think it is. And I have to say, I don't know about you, but that, when you finally, that light goes on and you think, holy baloney, that this is bigger than me. However, when you look at those kids, I had 4. When you look at them, you had your 1. You look at them and you're like, okay, game on. I don't know what it is. And it doesn't happen overnight. So you yourself, you were able to get out of the situation. How long has it been since you had that Freedom Day? And I know we're going to talk about that.
Yeah. Well, again, I can't believe it. This July 27th, 2019, it will be 10 years. Yeah. And I tell you, Tamara, I was just writing, I thought 10 years ago, if we're talking about like today, 10 years ago today, I was still there, still not knowing if it's going to succeed or not. But I didn't have a plan B. Let me tell you, I didn't have a plan B.
No,
I mean, I was like on hyper alert. I could have never guessed, never in a million years, what my life would be like today, back then. Never. There's no concept of it. And I think that's the thing, it's just like, there are ways to move forward. There are ways. And I think the biggest is to have self-compassion for yourself, have self-compassion, to believe in your own truth when everyone is against you, because let me tell you, they will all be against you. You will feel you are alone in a huge ocean. And when my daughter and I arrived, and we felt like even our family and friends, because nobody could understand it. Nobody could understand. People who've never been in abuse don't understand what it is. And they think you're weak. And why can't you just get over your depression? And we had PTSD and complex PTSD, all this stuff. And I just kept telling my daughter, you and I, we know the truth. I don't care what anybody else says. We're the only ones. We are the only ones to know the truth behind those walls.
And that is the case right there. And that's the thing that anybody that is watching this right now, and this is resonating with, is that the truth is the truth is the truth is the truth. That is the bottom line. And hold on to that. That was what, in truth, I held on to, and I still do. And in my situation, I'm looking at now, to calculate it out, Freedom Day would have been 16 years ago. 16 years ago. And the truth is, do people still have an opinion of me that is completely not right? Yes. Did I have to be in the courts for 7 years? Yes. Was my name drawn through and in 2 different states? Was it drawn through the mud, muck, and mire? And did I have people that I thought loved me and believed in me that turned against me and said, oh, she's just making it up? Yes. Right. However, the thing you hold on to and the thing you learn about yourself, and one of the strongest tools that you've got is truth. If you can be truthful and hold on to your truth, because you know what I did? I ended up, because I was court ordered to not talk about it because I had kids that were minors. I did it. I stayed true to what the court order was. However, you know what I did? I kept it all. And I figured at some point in time, and it's public record, in the United States. And I thought at some point in time, even if after I'm dead and gone, as we used to say around my house, and as long as we had truth between us, it was no matter what. This is We know. And it doesn't matter what anybody else says. And you and what you end up finding is that you find calm in that truth.
Oh my
Right?
gosh. Yeah, because it's the only thing you can really hold on to, right? You
Right.
can
Yeah.
only hold on to. And I don't know how long you were married, I don't remember, but again, I was married, over 23 years. And so I waited a long time. And
Yeah.
I want, some people's, and like you mentioned in the beginning, sometimes you'll make decisions. There's no judgment here. But let me tell you, there is nothing better than having freedom of your own soul. I mean, I look out and I appreciate my freedom. Like on July 4th, I know what freedom really means. I
Yeah.
really know.
Yeah.
It's not just the fireworks and the barbecues and everything. It means I have agency,
Right.
over myself. I can choose who I see. I can choose when I see my friends and my family. I can create a business if I want. I can work when I want. I
Mhm.
can leave the house when I want.
Right.
I can, I can create financial freedom when I want.
Right.
I can do what I want with my own time.
Mm-hmm.
Having that instead of having the control and the anger and having to defend myself. So it's nothing you did or
Yeah.
you are doing. It has nothing to do with you at all. It's all about the other person's um, need, almost sick need to control because
Mm-hmm.
they feel weak. But I didn't know any of that stuff. You just feel the onslaught of their behavior, and they'll tell you, this is why it's so difficult. They'll tell you you're worthless. They'll tell you you're bad. I mean, I got that, so talk about limiting beliefs. I say women who've been abused, it's like having limiting beliefs on steroids.
Absolutely. And if I can just interject here, is it really where you think you're going crazy is that, let's say you just cleaned the room and the room was cleaned a certain way, and then you put something away and maybe you decided to change it up a bit. Well, you don't know that in this kind of a situation, you could literally, and I did have physical abuse also, you could literally pay for it in a variety of different ways because you chose to do something different. And and when that happens, then you start to question yourself, well, I did do something different. I did do something. And so then it's that manipulation of, okay, it's your fault that you're getting this kind of behavior because you deserve it because of the fact that it was fine the way it was before. It was just perfect the way it was before. You messed it up. And now, guess what? You're bad. And that bad can translate into whatever it is. It can be emotional, it can be verbal, it can be physical, it can be financial, there can be so many different ways that it comes out. And what I just want to say again for anybody that's watching right now is, if you're saying, wow, I never thought of it that way, and the way to kind of test it, and the way that I learned through the years of therapy that I did after Freedom Day, years, I mean, years and years, is that if I ever had something like that happen and I start to question myself in a negative way and my stomach goes off, there's a reason for that, because
Yeah.
we're not supposed to be dealing with that kind of stuff. That's not in a nurturing, safe and loving environment. And maybe it's time, and not not everybody's going to need to go underground and escape and have these dramatic stories. However, there are those that do. And so you have started a movement to say, you don't have to do this alone. And love doesn't have to hurt. And love can actually be kind. And you yourself are experiencing that too, right?
Yes. Yes, I am. Tamara, I think when I started the movement, it all started when I was starting to write the memoir, 11 Hours to Freedom with my daughter. And I thought, what is it that I want? What is it that, when I talk to these women, it's just like, we want to be treated with kindness, you
Right.
know, right? Just
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
old fashioned kindness, how,
Yeah.
and it's not about, this is not any mission against men. It's about
No.
lifting everybody up. I mean, I happen to be madly in love with the most the kindest man I've ever had in my entire life.
Do you mind? I'm going to show a picture because you just look so happy. I mean, because as I've been, because we've been friends and kind of following each other because of everything for a while. And I was like, yes, this is such an amazing, and you've been talking like, it's just so wonderful to see that there is hope. Yeah. And that's, again, what this picture to me shares, is that there's hope around the corner for whatever that hope may look like. It may be a different thing for each of us. However, you have.
Yeah, I feel like a little kid. I never thought it possible. I couldn't look beyond, when you're in the mire of it. And I remember, this is the God honest truth. When I first arrived in the United States, I was afraid of all men.
Yeah.
All men. I was afraid of all men, and I put them all in the same pot. They're all bad. I mean, it was wrong, but that was my mindset when I came because I was so terrified.
Right.
Of course, again, through therapy like you and understanding, obviously, I'm not against men at all. I mean, I'm very attracted to men, and I've got a great one in my life. But again, I think, I would have never had this if I took my life, and it's, again, I stayed in it a long time, and there was always just that sliver of hope. It's that sliver of hope, by the way, wasn't always conscious, but it was there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, because in anybody that's been through this will have right now say, okay, my sliver of hope came through this. My sliver of hope came through that. And again, they may be saying, I didn't realize that was a sliver of hope. Because like with me, I have a little dorky side, and I love to be kind of like fun and funky. And so, when my kids and I would hear a song and it would prompt us to sing and dance or whatever it was, and there was like an inspirational moment in it, and they were young, and so most of them were Disney, let's just be real.
Yeah,
but
fun.
Yeah, but there was always that, and yes, there was always that like Prince Charming kind of story to it. And I kept thinking, I don't really know that I really want that piece of it. However, I like the idea of the happy ever after, and it doesn't have to be, like so many. Yeah. But that was, in many ways, in my way of doing it, it was like, okay, yeah, and then I would devour books and books and books. And yes, I've read so many from the Holocaust, so many from different, and there are always some kind of truth to the book. There might be a little fictional piece to it, but mostly based on non-fictional material. And people would be like, why are you reading that stuff? And I was like, to me, I kept thinking, this is my sliver of hope. They got through it. I can too. I understand that pain. It translates different. And then, you start feeling that guilt of my pain's not as bad as theirs. They had the smell of burning flesh in the air. Well, however, you start really dissecting and so many different things. And this is where therapy and understanding, so much more. And there's so much hope here, guys. There's so much hope. But, when you start understanding that truly human nature, there are people that will show up. And I learned a favorite word. And I don't know about you, but my favorite word became possibility. Possibilities, that anything was possible and that things would be coming around the corner. I'm feeling it right now, and I still get that, but I kept feeling, okay, something's around the corner. Something good is about to happen. Something's about to happen. And you start really becoming more in tune. And in many, many things, if it doesn't take us, it can make us stronger. And you're out there creating a worldwide mission. And yes, we compare notes. I'm into a worldwide mission. And is it an accident that both of our messages have in there, you are not alone?
Yeah, absolutely. You're not alone, and you know, and we're going to get into our missions together
Right,
because they're very linked.
right,
Um, and of course, and then the mission that, like, I teach the women and everything is that just keep repeating to yourself, you deserve to be treated with kindness. You know that, and you know, I deserve to be treated with kindness. And sometimes women go, oh, really? You know, like, because they don't even think it's a possibility. Again, getting to your word, a possibility, right?
right, right.
That it's like, yes, you deserve to be treated with kindness. And it starts with you being kind to yourself.
Absolutely.
And
And
that's not,
giving yourself permission to do that, because that is everything against what you've been told for
right.
years, right?
Yeah. You know, and being kind to yourself is not selfish. And in
No.
fact, when you are kind to yourself, you become actually empowered, because the kind of kindness that I teach is you learn how to set healthy boundaries. Yeah. So, well, this is my word. This is when you're saying possibilities. Mine was always keep moving forward.
I love it.
I do it all the time. Keep moving forward. Somebody just wrote to me a few minutes before we came on, and she was making a comment that I had, you know, said, and she says, and I go, I just keep going forward, you know, and you know, you get hit, you get slammed, you whatever, and I just keep moving forward. That just happened a few minutes ago before we started. But
And you know, and just to concur that I do believe that both us and others that are called to help others, that we will be able to help everybody understand that
yeah,
you can keep moving forward. And the more of us that are willing to get out there and have the courage to say, okay, you know, this, because I have to say, it's really interesting. And I'm open about this, but I haven't been truly open about some of the reasons why. I didn't have any social media at all
no,
until
me
the
neither.
day after I started chemotherapy, and I only started through the Messenger app so I could talk to my
Mhm.
new buddy. And the reason why was I was off the grid.
Well, there was nothing. I mean, again, I lived in the Middle East, right?
Right.
I talk about no contact. I had no contact, you know. And I remember in our first years of marriage, I would just say, like, you know, ask permission to call my parents. You know, I'm living
Mm-hmm.
halfway around the world. So, you know, you're so isolated so
Mm-hmm.
often. And it's just like, just hang on our coattails. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when the time is right, you're probably, you know, if you're in it, you're probably afraid. If you have escaped, you know, we want to celebrate you, or you've left, you've gone. And that's what the
Yeah.
National Love is Kind Day is all about, which is
Yes.
July
Yes.
27th. And it's like, it's a day to celebrate your freedom and independence from abuse,
Yes.
because, you know, every country in the world has an Independence Day. Why do we have an Independence Day? It's to, you know, they celebrated, they didn't want to be controlled by a foreign power, right? They didn't want to be dominated. Well, human beings anywhere don't want to be dominated. We don't want to be dominated in our relationships, or be controlled when and where we can go and what we can do and how much we can spend and who we can see and who we can't see. That's
Mm-hmm.
not normal. Okay, everybody, it's not normal. So
No. No.
National Love is Kind Day is because love is kind. It's not abusive. It's not controlling. It's not demeaning. It's not terrorizing. You know, enough of living in terror in your own family.
Right.
That's
Many will relate to walking on eggshells. I used to say it was more than eggshells, it was glass. It felt like you were constantly walking
walking
on
on.
glass everywhere, you know, no matter what. And that if you walked on the glass, what happens? You end up being bleeding, you end up being bloody and bruised.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if you've ever used those words, I don't understand why when I'm at home I feel like I'm walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
Then you know it might be something to, you don't deserve that. Love
Yeah.
doesn't have to feel that way. Love should be, I love being at home, I feel safe at home. And when you
Right.
can't say that you feel safe at home, when you do everything you can to be away from home, because that's the last safe place, that's the place where you feel like there's the most danger, 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 Will Robinson is what I keep thinking of, back in the day with that old show. It's time to look and say, maybe I need help. Maybe I need help. And so you are out there and you have been traveling throughout the world, haven't you? And you've been meeting people, and you recently were in New York for something.
Yeah, I was on the East Coast. I was on a speaking tour there, and sharing my story and empowering women, and women in business, because again, this doesn't matter, where you are, what you're doing, and how it impacts us. Like I was teaching women, start practicing how to ask, because you lose your voice.
Yes.
I mean, I lost my voice. I mean, I couldn't even have my brother tell my husband, my ex-husband now, she's upset with you. She's upset with you. I mean, talk about minimizing what it was. But, I got afraid. And through my, the man I met now that I'm with, the love of my life. I mean, he's so humble that it's like, I keep telling him, I go, I'm learning from you how to ask again. I'm learning from you that there is kindness in the world, and I wasn't comfortable with kindness because my brain wasn't used to it, right? This is another thing that people think your brain is used to what it knows, not necessarily what is good for it, right? So even though kindness was good, I didn't know what that meant, right? So and that's why people can sabotage the good things. Right. But now it's like, you deserve to be treated with kindness. Let's learn what that means about really honoring your values, knowing what they are, to be able to honor them, to be able to set healthy boundaries, to be able to ask confidently for what you want. Kindness leads to empowerment. And when you are empowered, you won't become in an abusive situation again. And abuse is just not in the family, right? You are who you are. So if you're abusive, you have that nature, or somebody does, they're going to bring it to the workplace, or colleagues, coaches. I'm sorry to say, therapists, lawyers, everybody. I mean, it's everywhere. But if you become confident and know who you are and what to expect, and that you deserve kindness and respect, and know how to create that in you, then we create a kinder world. I mean, when we create a hurt person hurts others.
Right.
A kind person you feel empowered and you empower others. It's not being kind is not the same as pleasing everybody. Let's not get that confused. We're not talking about being a doormat. That is not it. The kindness is much deeper within you, because if you're not giving yourself care, if you're putting yourself last, if you don't feel that you deserve, it's like you have to prove everything to everybody. That's not being kind to yourself.
Right. And I just want to take this and then add to it because of what my message is, because it piggybacks into each other. And yes, we both know this. And I want to add something to it. And that is, if you got yourself out and then for some reason all of a sudden you're in a business situation or something and you're like, how did I do this again? Don't question it. Just start being aware of it and start working through it again. That there is the ability to start really understanding and navigating. You got through it once, you can get through it again. And what is happening with some in my community is that there is a bit of a double whammy for some, and it's something that we need to totally look at, understand, and then do something about it, because we can. And that is some of those that are affected by cancer. And this is one of the big reasons that I have Chemo Buddies for Life. I don't talk about it much, but it is truly, and behind the scenes, this is a real big reason, because there is an epidemic out there. And many of my buddies will be able to say, yes, I know, because I am one of them. And that is that, unfortunately, because of the stress that is faced, in a situation like this, many of us then end up with cancer. We can't fault ourselves for it. We need to understand it. And what is happening with some is that they are still in the situation. And in particular, a few of the different cancers, they have found that there is a sub epidemic going on. And that is that some are being diagnosed with the fact that they have cancer, and then shortly thereafter being given divorce papers. Now, the issue is, and if anybody is watching this and say, yeah, I know I'm one of them, or I know someone that is, part of the mission here, and we can actually do something about that, and that is that we have the freedom here in the United States to have a voice. And we know and believe that many of our politicians don't understand that the laws are not working necessarily for us when it comes to this, because are you aware that if you are presented with, you have cancer, oh, by the way, now you have a divorce to deal with, and you're going through treatment. You're in the fight of your life, and many times, because you're the woman, you may even have children at home, and going through the divorce, unless you know to ask for a stay from the judge, you will not automatically be given necessarily your insurance to continue your treatment. So we are having too many of our buddies, too many people that are having their insurance ripped out from under them while they are still in the fight of their life. And that it happens. So for anybody that's going through chemotherapy or any other treatment that they're using their insurance, they know this drill. You have your appointment, and each appointment before you go in, that insurance is still then verified. Each and every appointment. It's expensive to go through treatment. So what happens then? You're not done with treatment. Many are deer in the headlight. So then they go for state aid. And if you do that, oftentimes they make you go through retesting and possibly a different treatment plan. We are losing too many people to this. Then think about this. If someone left, and if it was the mother that's in the situation and they have minor children, this is an epidemic of financial issues that the government looks at the bottom line, finance. It is a financial crisis because many of these children are then abandoned by the healthy parent and put on state institutions into the programs. So we can stop it all. We can stop it all by something as simple as you're given divorce papers. Okay, fine, that might be the best thing. However, don't take that person's life. We need laws to be on a federal level that if you are in the fight of your life, that insurance will get a stay immediately. Let's make this happen. Let's make it happen. There's no reason that someone that is fighting for their life will have less rights than some of our beloved animals. That is the truth. And love is kind. We can be kind to each other, and we can be out there making a difference. So thank you for letting me take this moment, because we deal with this, don't we?
Yeah, and I wanted to add, Tamara, that I haven't had cancer, but there is not one woman that I have spoken to personally who's been through an abusive situation who has not had some major medical issue. I've had mine, several of them, and again, didn't know the link until much later. Right now, we're putting all the links together, and maybe they're not making that link. They'll just think, oh well, I was stressed or I was hit, whatever. They'll make excuses. I mean, again, this is another red flag. If you're making excuses for the person's behavior, you're making excuses for why you're ill when you know that you're not feeling well. Like you said, This is because of the abuse. It gets into your cells, which you both
Right.
know, and I don't want to get into the detail. But this health crisis, to me, health and the abuse, there is a link. There
Yeah.
is a direct link,
Yeah.
and we have to break free, and we want to do it because you deserve to be treated with kindness. We want you to move forward of what you want, not to escape from what you don't want. Like that's what I
Right.
did. Oh, I don't want to be in an abusive relationship. I don't want to be controlled. What I
Right.
want is a kind relationship. What I want is kindness. When we move towards what we want, it changes your whole mindset, and that kind of energy and the people who can help you and be kind to you will start to come into your life. This is so
Exactly.
critical, and this is why it's called the Love is Kind movement, National Love is Kind Day, because it's to celebrate your freedom from abuse and freedom and independence from abuse. It's to celebrate those or to help support those who are still seeking it, and to make a declaration, yeah, we deserve to be treated with kindness. And that's starting
Exactly.
today.
Exactly. And, and I just, I want to just say thank you for this movement. And why is it that it's not coming up here? I'll put this one up again. Okay. So, because this is a visible way for us to be able to say we can do this, and it doesn't have to be scary, it doesn't have to be big, because like with us, we go with humor, hope, and heart. Everything gets washed through that because there's so much hope. In fact, I will say right now, and I haven't been talking about, there's been a lot of people that have commented, and I'm sorry I've been ignoring you. I haven't been trying to, but this is an important topic. However, I want to recognize one of my chemo buddies for life, and that we have so many that are banding together and saying, okay, we're a community that we are going to make a difference, and we're here for each other, and we love each other, and we're going to hold our even digital hands, and we can go and give each other hugs, either in person or
Virtually.
throughout the virtual, because it yeah, exactly, it's all about sharing the kindness. It's all about being there for each other, and it's about sharing that there is hope for a new day. So as we wrap this up, when you talk to people about what they should be doing, when you are out there saying, okay, there is a new day, there is hope, but they come to you and they say, okay, I need that. I'm realizing I need it, and I need some help. Do you have a place that you send them? Do you have any kind of words of encouragement? What is it that you do that you help them with?
Well, yes to everything. So where I'd like to send them is to the freedomfulfillmentquiz.com, the freedomfulfillmentquiz.com. In just 4 minutes, it's going to show you where you're at and where you want to go. And then from there, then I take them, to really become empowered within themselves. Because, this is like 10 years of studies, and, like you reading hundreds of books and
Yeah.
doing probably every therapy and modality there is
Yeah,
to
you
get to
do.
this,
Yeah.
and then, now shrinking it down into a simple system,
Mm-hmm.
because, and of course, and the basis is always kindness. On all my emails and everything I send out, it's like, you deserve to be treated with kindness. I want that like get imprinted in your brain, and
Mm-hmm.
to always remember that, no matter what. And when you're in a community, when you're not alone, like the community that Tamara has created for you, then things aren't so bad. And if you're having a rough day, someone can just hold your hand, and we realize when we're not alone that we're all the same. We all have problems. I mean, I'm going to speak for Tamara. It's like, we're not perfect. We've got a lot of problems going on behind the scenes. Let me tell you, we're out here doing our best, going forward, and for me, the fight for my freedom, the continuous fight for my freedom is important. Just like we don't take our countries, the country does not take its freedom for granted. They're always, strengthening themselves. You too need to keep strengthening yourself. And it's learning those skills, but not just learning them once, but really incorporating them into your everyday life and practicing them. Just like you go to the gym, you can't just learn, oh, this is how I be kind to myself or do self-care, or how to create a healthy boundary and to maintain that boundary. You've got to practice at it. You've got to be reminded of what you need to do. So those are the things I do because, and I need to practice them. So that's why I love working with my clients, because then I get to practice.
Exactly. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to say that I'm really lucky that I actually just recently have aligned myself with gettranquility.com, because what they have are portals that, yes, they're geared maybe for children, but they're geared for children of all ages, because in truth, I don't know about you, Rosie, but myself, I kind of stripped myself back to keep it simple. And I let myself go back to almost like I am starting fresh again, when it was like, okay, now I'm free. How do I go about this? I'm a smart person. I've done amazing things in my life. Yet right now, I need to put my one foot in front of the next, and I need to relearn that it's all right to do this, and that I can have control to say it's okay. And it took me a while. And sometimes even now, this many years later, I can sometimes even put myself in a self-imposed, okay, I'm a little bit in jail, because when things get big, and then it's like, okay, I need to, and it's almost like I need permission. No, I don't need permission. I'm good with this. I have control to do this. And so then I have to back up and say, keep it simple. And so it took me a while to align myself with any groups. And this particular one, the reason I did, and you can get a free portal if you want to check them out, gettranquility.com. And yes, total admission, we get a little donation on every free portal, but it's the tools that you get, and any tools that can give value and help you to live a healthier, happier life with yourself, your family, and your community. By golly, I'm all about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say the other thing, for people, and I mentioned it earlier, is just like, give yourself some self-compassion. Right. This is we're so lacking on this. I should have done this. I should have done that. I made the same mistake again. It's like, give yourself compassion. People forget you are a human being, and we make mistakes. But you can learn from them, and it's okay. You may fall down 10 times. Just get up. And sometimes it takes you longer to get up, but it's okay. Just, if I can help people to stop beating themselves up, because we've been, I got beat up like you from, emotionally, physically, everything, but then in my own mind, I was beating myself up, and that's not being kind to yourself. Right. And that's where one of the tools is to really learn about the self-compassion.
And thank you for bringing that up. As we close this, I just want to again say, I thank you so much for having the courage to take your story. And I know that in the very beginning, it was that you were writing your story, and because it is an incredible story, and the courage to tell that story is huge. And then when you found that there was a need for a movement, you stepped up and said, okay, yeah, I need some courage again, because it's not going to necessarily be easy. And in fact, I'm going to have some help. And there even may be some bigger issues that you deal with. And yet the biggest issue is that there are so many people out there that need this. There are so many people that right now they don't have the tools, and they don't know where to turn, and they don't even know what side is up anymore, because they're so discombobulated and so turned around and upside down that they feel as though in many ways it's almost like you're drowning, but you're not.
Yeah.
And so now you're giving them a visible hope, a visible, some tangible kindness, and then mixing it with, I love your colors, the purple and the red. Notice
Thank you.
that. Love the branding. And and it makes a lot of sense in that there's peace and there's love and kindness and courage. There is movement. And when people think of movement, oftentimes they think of the numbers. But I'm going to say take it one step deeper. Moving forward. That
Yeah.
step in front of a step in front of a step. Because there's no accident in that word. And if everybody can say, I can only take a half a step today, there may be another that will say, it's okay, sister. I'll
I
meet
got
you and I'll
Yeah.
help you take another one.
Yeah.
Right? And that movement forward of love and kindness and creating an environment and education and, if you will, locking arms with others, that we can also change the way things are done. So it just makes it a player, fairer playing field, because again, we're not faulting anyone here. If you don't know, you don't know. But let's get it out there that let's give it. And so that those people that are facing it have a face, they can face it with a chance to survive through it, get through it, and then help others. Because you know what? There's a lot of smiles to be had, a lot of laughter to be doing, and a
Absolutely.
lot of just like major league. You never know what's around the corner. And look at what Rosie's dealing with now. Too big of a smile? No, big huge smile, and she deserves it. And I'm happy for you for it. So
Thank you.
when you're done, after we're done, if you could put your contact information in here, more information about how people can get involved in the movement, how they can support you in it, if they want you to come out and speak, how can they get you out there? How, just how is it that they can find out more? If there's someone that's saying, I don't know who to contact, but I know I need to do something. Do
Yeah.
something. Do
Yeah.
something, and together we can make a difference. And
Absolutely.
I use those words a lot, and people are starting to understand more. But if we all work together, guys, we will end. Through education and going to the source. I talked to someone the other day, and going to the source, and if we start also in, helping to educate ourselves and the next generations coming up, we can
Hmm.
change.
We can
That
change.
no one has to face this alone, and we can change our world so that we don't have this any longer. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You're absolutely fabulous. And thank you to all your listeners and participants. And yeah, together we can make a difference. And we're doing our share.
That's right.
We're doing our share. And, it's just to spread the word and go to the Love is Kind movement and the Facebook groups and just join and just keep sharing and sharing and sharing. That's how it grows, right? We're still a small movement here. And my vision is worldwide, and it's going to happen.
Oh yeah. Oh, and it's amazing how it happens. I mean, I'm actually going worldwide right now, and it's amazing. Oh, okay. I am going to end with this. Okay, because it's like perfect timing. One of our wonderful Jeremiah Knight, love him, and the two of us changing the world, love and hope. I appreciate you. And Jeremiah, man out there making a difference and believing in all of our dreams, and a dream of a safe place where love and kindness is
Yeah.
abounding in all of us, is exactly what our dreams are. So as we end day number 274 of 365 days of awesome. I know we've gone a little long, guys, but this is an important topic, an important movement, and a first annual, and let's make this an first annual for sure. It's on my mother's birthday, so I'm going to be celebrating it. It's so exciting. So that Love is Kind Day, July the 27th. Thank you for doing all you needed to do to even make a day. It's not easy. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for leading this movement. Thank you for being so brave and courageous. Thank you for leading through your example, that we can get through it, and then we can get on the other side and have that amazing, happy life that we all want and all deserve.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm.
Love you. Love your
I
people.
love you too. Thank you so very much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so real quick, guys, we're going to be tomorrow. I'm just going to say it really quick. We had to reschedule Christopher Kaysen because of a family we now know death, and it had taken place the day that we were going to go live. So he is on tomorrow. Many have been asking when. It's tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. He is doing autism to artism. Very exciting.
Oh, sweet.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much. Say hello to your beautiful, amazing daughter that I love also.
I will.
And I'm going to be celebrating Love is Kind Day on my mom's birthday.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, everybody.